Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is the first chapter in a brand new DMT story written by myself, edited and produced, of course. As ever, please do let me know down below, guys, in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share, and don't forget to hashtag Team Fear. If you haven't subscribed to DMT, please do smash that subscribe button and throat punch the notification bell to stay up to date with all DMT content. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's first chapter of the story I'd like to entitle The Return to Taylor, Mississippi. Chapter 1. Let's get straight into that. My name here is not important, but I guess John will suffice. What is important is I get this out to as many people as possible. They're here, and always have been. Hell, they're even in the movies or TV, right in plain sight. But the time everyone realises, I fear, it will be too late, or it may already be so. The call came in just as I entered the office. I barely had a sip of my crappy coffee from the overpriced coffee joint back in town. A runner had escaped whilst in transportation to San Quentin State Penitentiary. Suspect was described as a monster of a man at 6'9", heavy build, Caucasian with long dark to black coloured hair, striking green eyes and a notable facial scar across his right cheek, with several others on different parts of his torso. Suspect was also described as suffering with paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar and other mental ailments or difficulties. Just great, I said aloud to myself as I sipped my already cold cup of coffee and poked around my packet for another cigarette. Another Looney Tune psycho built like Arnold Schwarzenegger for me to track down. Just what I need. If I could bag this guy though, it would mean one sweet ass paycheck. I enjoyed working solo as a bounty hunter, but as I viewed his records it soon was obvious this wasn't going to be routine. Far from it in fact, but I guess we'll start at the beginning. So it turned out this guy, Mr. Bill Chambers, was a real piece of shit. He had an arrest and convictions record as long as he was tall. All pretty hardcore too, from battery with deadly weapons, abduction and torture to multiple people, rape and murder on 6 counts. Once he was put into penitentiary with the lifers, well, he kind of handed out his own judgments and sentences. This is where it gets interesting. Because of all of the trouble he was causing at San Quentin State Prison, a place with its very own nightmare stories where death of inmates is an almost a daily occurrence. The system decided it was time to transfer Bill to ADX, Maximum Security Facility, in Colorado. Unfortunately for the 3 guards in transport with Bill, it would be their last shift. At some point between Utah or Colorado, the vehicle crashed, killing, or at least it appeared to have killed the guards and died from their trauma in the accident. But our suspect, a psycho suspect, completely gone. Shackles broken clean from their chains. Feds were at a loss, and the bounty was doubled in 48 hours of him being loose, as reports started flying in about hikers being mauled and attacked. Most were killed, but 1 or 2 were lucky and survived, although it depends if you count missing your lips and nose and fingers lucky. Yeah, anyway, that's when it caught my attention. Eventually days turned into weeks, and now months have passed. Everyone else has come to the conclusion that Bill simply died from the elements and starvation, but I knew something wasn't right. I mean, call me suspicious, but he gets loose, and within 48-hour period, innocent people at nearby forested locations were attacked by a madman, quote and unquote, bloodthirsty animal. I started to chase up a few contacts I have and managed to get some copies of the survivor's statement. It was clear that whatever had attacked this lady's old man, it scared her to her bones. She was referred to a psych clinic, and the feds noted that she was mumbling strange words like, "His eyes, red, and claws, wolf." It seemed the events had tilted her over the edge, and now her mind was no longer sound. She had only escaped with her life as she played dead. I was now beginning to think that this was indeed an animal attack, and as I received the post-mortem images, I was certain no man could inflict the damage caused to the husband, with his limbs ripped from their sockets. A stranger still, it appears the meat and bloodied ends were sucked clear of bone marrow, almost like an armed popsicle. The remaining meat in shreds, loose, hanging void of colour, as the blood had been sucked clean. His lower jaws completely and utterly crushed from each side. Bear? I thought. No, it couldn't be. Bear would have mauled his back and buttocks. Plus, the back of the neck is usually a prime target for a bear attack. I perused the other case file from a camp location 3 miles away. A small family had been camping for the week and unfortunately found that by midweek they were only family left on site. Now I'm sure at first this would have seemed ideal, but however I feel it was key to their demise. They were slaughtered whilst it appears they were sleeping. The mother and father both never even made it out of their bunk, and the children scattered into the darkness of the forest. One by one they were eventually picked off. 3 of the 5 children's remains were retrieved from elevated points. The first 2 were in a tree together. Perhaps they fled the campsite together, we'll never know. The third was found 90 plus metres up a sheer rock face. It took specialist climbers to retrieve the remains, and as far as I heard, they both discontinued working in the field due to how shocking the sight was. I'll save you the gruesome details, but post-mortem reports suggested an extremely large canine or bear attack. Of course, the latter was used as a public cover-up, equally as severe as the parents' injuries, and no mercy was ever shown. A truly horrible case, and one that I shall not forget. After that case, things went cold for a while, possibly a month plus, and absolutely nothing. Not a gnat's arse of a hint to where he was holding up. Search teams with dogs had exhausted all efforts, and once again, they assumed he had succumbed to the elements. I had all but given up when I visited my old friend Beanhead. He was a weird guy, but his heart was in the right place. The thing with Bean is he never left his trailer. I mean, never. But he continuously researched alien conspiracies and all types of crazy crap. He knew how to hack and find people really good too, so it kind of made my job, well, easier. It worked both ways, you know. Anyway, everyone called him Bean as his head was, well, shaped like a baked bean, and he was ginger. Anyway, as I was saying, I visited Bean and we hung out and cracked a few beers. Well, Bean had started ranting on and on like he always did. I kind of zoned in and out, but then he caught my attention. Someone literally ripped their arms off and legs off the bodies. The whole family, man. God, it's sick, you know? I cut him short. Yeah, wait, what? Repeat what you just said. So, sure, so the Clintons, the reptilians and... No, not that, dumbass, I screamed. The bodies, the limbs ripped off, I said, shaking my head. Oh shit, okay, sure. Well, 2 nights ago, way back up in the Wichita Mountains in Oki, 2 more separate groups of people have gone missing. Now, they found where one party were camping. The equipment and the clothing was completely torn, destroyed. Also reports of multiple blood pools in locations in and around the camp area, leading into the deeper forest. And one deceased is staked to the earth. I mean, what could do such? Can you get me everything you can get on this ASAP? Everything, Bean. This is it. Is what? Bean asked, confused and a little worried. It's got to be that crazy suspect I was tracking, but lost before he realised I was onto him. I responded, with dollar signs in my eyes like Scrooge McDuck. John, you can't be seriously thinking to do this, man. I mean, how could anyone rip limbs from a body of their victim? It's just not possible, John, he declared, spilling his microwave noodles down his already stained brown top. I know it's him because he's already did exactly that to a family with 5 kids, all of them hunted down in the middle of the night through cold, wet, dark forest, picked off like rabbits. I volleyed back. His eyes widened, then slowly narrowed, as if he expected me to finally admit I was joking. When I didn't change my expression, his eyes widened once more. But how? Why? I mean, not why per se, but how? He was completely white and perplexed how a man could physically manage such a task. I don't know, Bean, but he did it for sure. I'll spare you the rest of the victims, I added. Rest? He said, shocked. Yeah, man. There were multiple groups of hikers and campers going missing, and then found like that. Some in the damn bunks still, and others fled deeper into the forest. Authorities believed that he had died from the cold and lack of food. I wasn't sure. It's been almost 2 months since I had anything remotely suggestive of him being alive, let alone still slaughtering people. Bean's horrified face remained shocked, and then he immediately jumped over to his work area. It was a mess, but it worked for him, I guess. Anyway, he managed to pull up more reports from 3 different states such as Kansas, Oklahoma and Arkansas. 12 separate cases totaled his trial of carnage and senseless killing, all with the same grotesque technique of killing. However, 2 of the other cases caught my attention. They were very similar to the Chambers case in the level of violence, but not entirely. But I'll get back to that later. I remained with Beanhead until 4:30 AM, gathering as much information on the murders and information on the locations. "You can't do this solo, John," he said as I popped my truck door. "Are you going to come with me, Bean?" I said mockingly, but with a smile. "Nope, I ain't that stupid. Besides, I've got to look after my plants. They need me," he responded, smiling back. "Yeah, they do, you crazy old bastard. Don't be smoking yourself dumb now." I cracked back and climbed into my truck. Waving me off in the headlight beams and early morning fog was Beanhead, still casually in his dirty ass white underwear, with one sock hanging loose and long off one foot. "Damn, you are one crazy old boy, but you've got eyes and ears like an eagle," I said aloud as I pulled out onto the long dirt road and away from Beanhead's property. I needed a drink, and so I reached for my scotch flask in the dashboard drawer and took 3 heavy swigs, hitting my belly and gut with a warm and fiery feeling. My nerves and excitement calmed, and the job was now back on. I was heading to Arkansas and the Ozark Mountains. He had no doubt covered more ground in the last 2 days, but I was back on his trail. I settled in for the night at a seedy motel and went over everything that had taken place, trying to find a common denominator, a reason for the violence, and more importantly, where the hell was he heading? Or more to the point, how was he still alive and able to cover so much ground? He had to have either had help or hijacked a car or a form of transport. But all the recent murders, they've been deep in the backcountry, I mean way back. No road access, not really. Not unless you were half crazy and had a truck to match. It's desolate. Nothing but the wind and endless miles and miles of trees. Did you know that over half of Arkansas is completely forested? That's more than 2.5 million acres within the 3 main state parks. So yeah, it wasn't going to be an easy task by no means. But I was good at this, and I always got my man. If I couldn't find him within a month out there, then I'd make him come to me. I awoke the next afternoon, my head cloudy from polishing off the rest of the scotch. A voicemail from Bean telling me to call him ASAP. I got washed up and dressed before calling him and heading back onto the road. I was around 2, maybe 3 hours away from the first trailhead location in the Ozark National Forest. It would be a long and dangerous hike on foot further and deeper into the backcountry forest areas that the missing party was believed to have been in. The weather was cold, but the chances of rain were minimal, although the sky suggested totally different. Again, my head throbbed and my stomach moaned and sloshed around the last night's scotch, marinated, empty stomach. All of a sudden my phone went. "Bean, it's me, what's up?" I asked. "John, you got to leave this one for the army, man." "What?" "No, Bean, I'm cool, man. I've faced far worse groups of runners before. It'll be over and done in no time and we can go about spending all that bank," I declared, hoping that he would shut up, as he was making me nervous, and I'd heard it all before. However, he persisted and then gave me an update that sent tiny needles of fright up my spine like sharp spider legs creeping their way up and then down. "John, he's not well, he is, but rather more of a it," he continued, sounding more and more delusional by the minute, talking about secret cult groups, online and within the government, even the CIA, DEA and FBI, hurtling along at 500 miles an hour. Animal testing, super soldier, ancient bloodlust, secret underground facilities, even DNA splicing and reformation. I lost track of my patience, and I eventually screamed at Beanhead to shut up and just laid out plain and simple what the hell he was trying to say. As I did so, he calmly stopped, bleating and ranting. He took a deep breath, and in the most composed voice I'd ever heard leave his toothy mouth, he said, "John, he's not normal. He's got a condition or disease I don't know. Nobody does. There are a couple of the deep websites and chats that I go on and what, Bean?" I beckoned angrily at him. "Well, a couple of the chat room people were talking about secret cult or government super soldier projects or ancient bloodlines between man and beast, or something I don't fully understand yet myself, but, John, they mentioned channeling dark magic or spirits, that sort of thing. I don't get it, but, well, one of the rituals they were discussing was a ritual that would grant people the power, strength, and agility of 10 wolf-like beasts, something along the lines of Dogman, but not natural. More like a position or arrangement between human and demon," he said, with a tone so sobering that for a minute it had me. "That it?" I asked hurriedly. "No, not entirely," he responded. "You see, one of the symptoms of such ritual is bloodlust, insatiable hunger and anger, increased awareness of the senses, possibly even new ones. Do you get what I'm saying to you, John? This is not something you want to get involved in. It's been going on like this for hundreds, if not thousands of years. He's a real-life werewolf, damn it, John. Could you not see?" He screamed at me, losing all calm and composure he had previously kept. "Werewolves, Ben? I responded mockingly at his suggestion. Well, you believe in the vampire cases of New Orleans, didn't you? He added. He was right, I did believe those attacks to be at the hands of real-life blood-sucking vampires. But I had fought them in my work, seen them up close. I barely escaped with my life on more than one occasion. But yeah, man, I knew they were real, so why not werewolves? There's more, Bean added. More? For God's sake, Bean, what else? I replied. Yes, more. Way more, John. Listen, from the pattern of the attacks in general direction, I believe he may be headed to a particular town in Mississippi. Where, Bean? There's a little country town way out in the middle of nowhere. The town has a very long and persistent history of Dogman encounters and sightings. Some even believe the town's folk are in on it, and even real-life werewolves. Well, if I had to put my money on a destination, I'd say it's the town of Taylor, Mississippi. As he said the last sentence, a knot had begun to twist in my chest, and my heart slipped a few beats. Taylor, eh? You're pretty confident on this, Bean? I asked. Pretty much, John. But listen, you can't seriously expect to take this guy on, especially if he makes it to Taylor. What if the rumours are indeed true? What if you truck his hairy ass deep into the back country, and the town turn and hunt you down with him? He shouted. They won't, I said. How do you know that, John? He's a damn werewolf. We don't know anything from this point out. He added, upset and genuinely concerned about my safety. Look, Bean, I'll be fine. I'm armed with full metal jacket ammo and my MP5. Plus, I got the 50 cal judge, just in case. Please, see what you can find out from your weirdo group chat room, and I'll have a look into some more info into the history of Taylor. I'd already heard of the Dogman sightings in recent years. Could this really be Bill Chambers' plan all along? How would a Dogman react to the abomination that was a werewolf? Did they kick it together? I goddamn hope not, as I continued on the interstate with the sunset just starting to wash in the horizon into an incredible deep blend of oranges and purples. The moon just started to shine brightly in the oncoming nighttime sky. Hundreds of miles later, and what felt like hundreds of hours, I finally made my way down Old Taylor Road. This road was nothing more than a thin strip of tarmac between miles and miles of woods and fields, eventually leading to the quiet town of Taylor, Mississippi. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous in such a location, with the amount of paranormal activity and Dogman sightings as Taylor. My fear was confirmed on my first night in town. After arriving around early evening at maybe 6 or 7 p.m, I checked myself into a shitty old B&B run by a really old and obnoxious man in his late 70s, if I had to guess. Anyway, he was very particular about my smoking and said that the front door would be locked from 10 p.m to 6 a.m. every night in the summer and 7 to 8 p.m. in the winter. My guess was the Dogman problem, or it really was just a pain in the arse control freak. I dumped my bags upstairs in my room and decided to hit the local bar and see what info I could gather on these local dogs. I holstered my judge and set out around 6:30 p.m. into the waning evening light. The town seemed unusually busy as people rushed around, getting whatever it was that they needed. I noticed a huge amount of Bibles and crucifixes for sale, pretty much in every store. Hell, even the bar had a big dusty old Bible. It looked like it was 100 years old. I made my way into the local bar and sat at the bar counter. All eyes were on me, but Tupac was spinning its rounds in my head, as not a strange glance or straight up stare was wasted. I cleared my throat, trying to gain the barkeep's attention, as he leaned on the counter on the opposite end of the bar speaking with the 5 local guys. They looked like truckers, but I never did find out. Anyway, my attempt to gain some service was as successful as the maiden voyage of the Titanic. All I received was a blank 4-second stare from all 6 men before they shook their heads and carried on their conversation. Okay, if that's how we're doing things, I said aloud. I tried the nice guy way in close-knit towns like this before. I wasn't about to be ignored, especially when it came to getting my nightly Scotch fix. With an utter lack of any response, I shrugged my shoulders and got off my stool. I then walked round to the end of the bar and behind it and grabbed a bottle of 60-year single malt off the shelf and calmly made my way back to my stall. I could see them in my peripheral gearing up and heading my way. Hey! One of the men shouted, and the barman had retreated to his side of the counter. Hey! You can't just walk up in here and grab my favourite bottle off the bar. I glanced up to see the largest of the 5 men grabbing a pool cue and storming his way over to me, his buddy in tow also. Just who the hell do you think you are? I heard one of them say before finally I was face to face with this would-be posse. What's the problem, gents? I barked, looking each one in his eyes. You can't just come in here and take that there bottle. It's mine, and I want it now, said this 6'5", 300-pound sack of shit, smelling of chewing tobacco and cheap whiskey. Is that right, huh? I added. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my badge and showed them my judge on my side. I guess it would be a real pain in the arse to run you boys through the system, check out any outstanding warrants. But then, that would be the boring thing to do. No, I'd much prefer finishing this bottle with you boys like gentlemen. And in return, you can all tell me about your late night visitors. I said with a cold hard stare at the wannabe Hulk, who up until the last sentence looked smoother than a Garth Brooks album. What? He squeaked, clearly unprepared for me being aware of such things. You need to leave, son. Leave right now before it's too late, he responded angrily. No, sir. I can't do that just yet. If you boys consider yourselves clever, you'll sit and drink with me, because if you don't, I can't help warning you of the abomination of a creature that is headed this way. Hell, possibly already here. The men's faces remained shocked, even pale in colour, at just the mention of a Dogman. Whatever was going on in this town, it looked like they weren't part of it. Just then a tall and stocky guy came fumbling in through the bar doors, half tripping, and then falling to the tiled floor in front of the shocked onlookers. What the? I managed to say aloud before a couple of men ran over to help the guy up off the hard floor. As soon as they lifted him up, a large crimson puddle pooled on the floor below him. It became apparent he had been attacked outside and was now very much bleeding out right in front of our eyes. His abdomen was slashed and clawed immensely from chest to groin. He was opened up. A loud pitched throughout the establishment. Let's get him over to the table over here, said one of the men helping. A few of the remaining would-be local bullies glanced over at me with a look of, well, I guess we do know what you're talking about. I nodded and said, you see, I'm here to warn you all, and maybe I can help also. I don't quite know how, but I'm working on it. I was met with murmurs from around the bar and remaining men next to me. You're crazy. There's nothing you can do. It's too late now. There's too many of them, said one of the men, who then tipped his hat at me and then the other men before swiftly leaving out the door, sidestepping around and through the crowd of the people gathered around the now ghostly white man on the table, blood beginning to run off the table side and puddle below. Seconds later there was a roar of a truck engine firing up and soon followed with a screech of tyres as he peeled out of the parking lot. The other guys in front turned to each other and then decided they too were calling it a night. They downed their drinks and hurriedly moved to the doors. Before stepping out of the bar, the men popped their heads out of the doors and looked left and then right. Before darting out of the doors, panic audible as they did so, the bar doors swing back, noisily creaking to and fro to a near silent bar full of people. Near silence except for the poor man half dead on one of the tables, cursing and screaming about the 8-foot-tall beast with glowing green eyes that had apparently run out from the forest on his driver's side, crashing into his pickup, which then sent it sliding out, off into the opposite tree line before flipping down an embankment into a little holler. He had managed to escape just by a whisker. As a deer caught the beast's attention, he made a run for his life from behind some trees that he was hiding behind. The beast changed its mind once more, and he began chasing him down. As he crossed back over the road, a large truck slammed into the werewolf a mere couple of feet behind him. The driver gave him a ride back to town but wouldn't stop, so he bowed in the middle of the street outside. Whilst everyone was arguing and murmuring amongst themselves, I had an idea. It was a little bit crazy, but what did I have to lose? Now was my time, I thought to myself. I cleared my throat and said aloud, good folk of this town, I know my face is not familiar, nor do you know my word is promised, but we do share something in common. I know of these creatures that reside here in the forests and swamps, but that is not why I am here. My name is John, redacted. I am a state bounty hunter, and I have been tracking a suspect across the nation. He is extremely dangerous, and I have good reason to believe he is here now, or at least he will be soon. But ladies and gentlemen, he isn't a regular Joe runner. Something is wrong with this guy. Something completely unnatural. He's a real life werewolf. I'm deadly serious, and I want you all to be aware of what is coming. Everyone, please take my cell phone number. If you see a very large man with long dark hair, call me ASAP, and do not approach him. The room had now fallen silent, save for the rattling breaths of the victim clinging to his life. How do we know you ain't just another one of those folks who research Dogman and Sasquatch creatures? Said a large lady at the back of the bar. Yeah, how do we know you ain't here for some story or some bullshit? Ha ha, goddamn werewolf my ass, added an old hunter behind me. I turned and addressed him. Because, sir, I have no interest in monsters or cryptids, whatever they call it. I hunt bad guys, and I get paid. Simple as that. I responded before placing my badge and ID on the bar in front of him. The old boy said as he took a closer look. Well, okay then. He's a bounty hunter, everybody, he said aloud to the locals. So how are you going to catch this? Werewolf, man-wolf, whatever, he added. Well, sir, I was thinking of baiting him out of hiding. Problem is, how are the Dogman going to react, or the Squatch? This is why I need you guys with me on this. I need to know what to expect from the Dogman. I responded, hoping that finally, now, they will begin to open up a little to the town's secrets. Wow, hope you guys enjoyed that first chapter. Just building a bit of plot there, a bit of scenery. Of course, as ever, please do let me know down below in the comments what you thought. Any suggestions for the story, I would love to hear those, of course. Please do share, and don't forget to hashtag Team Fear. And as ever, guys, remember, above all, be safe, not sorry.